Anything that everyone wants, I go the other direction. I don't want something that everyone else has got, and even in my cars that I build myself, each one of them I try to make quite different, even though they have similarities in the models and in the body shapes. I still want them to be different to the previous one. The Bomber was my second Studi, and I brought it in Dunedin about 47 years ago. Cost me 40 bucks. Drove it home in 2 gears. Wasn't in the best of conditions, but yeah, that's where it all started. In its original form, it's an unusual car, but the Studi really appealed to me because of its eccentricness, if you like, with the bullet nose centre. Just, yeah, the shape really attracted me.
The Studi sedan has been the recipient of several major overhauls in Trev's near 5-decade tenure of ownership. But this most recent makeover wasn't quite by choice. Some front-end customisation by blunt force.
79 was its first New Zealand Hot Rod Association Nationals that it went to. That was its first build. It had some pretty strange things then that we look back on and think, God, why'd you do that? But, you know, that's what we did then. Each time the car evolved, more and more things got done to it. Obviously it's been chopped, the chassis has been Z'd, we've shaved the gutters on it, radiused the doors, put a tilt front on. The tilt front is the sort of ongoing thing that's always been on it. It's always had a tilt front, probably not a thing for nowadays, but it's just what was on the car and I just wanted to keep it, you know.
And for Trev, the Studebaker canvas makes for one that's less restrictive when it comes to heavy customisation.
There's no expectations of what should or shouldn't be done with them. Stuff like a 56 Chev or something like that, there's a pretty high standard set. I don't have to end up in the same sort of compartment as everyone else.
By definition, the Bomber is what you term a radical custom. But being the eagle-eyed viewers that you are, you've already picked there's a couple more doors in play than what's typical for a traditional custom vehicle.
Not a lot of people chop a 4-door sedan, particularly that sort of body shape, but keeping in mind that when I got it, you were very, very lucky to find a 51 Studi or a 50 Studi 2-door or a coupe. In those days, I wouldn't have done what I do to them now, you know. Now, of course, with all the American imports, there's a lot more in the country than there was back in the 70s.
More, yes, but they're still not exactly common. And the lack of abundant factory-fresh examples for comparison does mean that much of Trev's custom touches slip under the radar.
It's just like anything else. When I'm building it, I want to make it nice to appeal to me. The fact that people don't notice it is not really a problem, in that they have nothing to compare it to anyway. You know, like all the little badges, the scripts and badges are all made out of stainless steel. The mouldings on the inside of the doors, the surround around the radio, just detail that makes the car look nice. And people don't actually notice it, but they think that looks really nice and smooth and tidy, but they can't find an answer why it looks like that. It just is, you know.
Some factory cues, however, are off limits.
If you're going to build a Bomber, a bullet nose Studi, you need to keep it a bullet nose Studi. If you change that, you lose the whole concept of the car, which my green delivery is a similar sort of a vehicle. Once again, it rotates round the Bomber, even though the Bomber nose itself mightn't be exactly stock. That's the main feature of the front of the car.
Trev's a fan of Chev's big block, and a fair few of them have made their way into his custom builds over the years, present company included. The 427 now weighs in at a warmed-over 439 cubic inches, backed by a turbo 400 feeding a Mopar diff. Steering and suspension remains all Studebaker, although the components have been raided from other branches of the family tree.
Well, it drives like a 50s car. She's not a racing vehicle by any means, but she goes quite well. Not a big dollar motor by any means. In fact, it was a very cheap motor. It was made from all the leftovers from other big blocks over a period of time.
And perhaps the most impressive part of this truly unique car? It's owner-built. It's a term thrown around perhaps a little lightly these days, but this highly customised Studebaker Champion is about as deserving of the title as they come.
I like to be able to do it myself. Even if it's a first-time thing that I've not done before, I'd rather spend a day or two doing it myself than paying someone to do it who might be able to do it in a couple of hours. It started out with right at the very beginning where I tried painting and panel beating and things like that, and they weren't all that good, but they got better as we went through the years, and I've been at it since I was 17, so I'm a wee bit older than that now, so I've learned a little bit along the way.
In its latest incarnation, the Bomber will soon chalk up 50 years in Trev's care. You may have built his cars for him, but when it comes to New Zealand's custom car landscape, Trev's the guy who's put Studebaker on the map.
It's definitely a car that I hope that takes people's attention, you know, like not your normal run-of-the-mill vehicle. Oh, I'd be keen to encourage anyone to buy a Studi, and building them is, once again, they can have the choice of what they want to do with it. Like any vehicle, you know, they can go radical, or they can just have a pretty stock street machine with an engine change, or even a resto. But yeah, buy a Studi.